He didn't want to sit under my name for some reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Welcome to everybody. That was a really nice introduction. It's been a super busy day, and I was just backstage in the U.S. A bunch of tech leaders just finally denounced Donald Trump, which took them forever, honestly. Don't clap. They're a bunch of wimps, because they should have done it months and months and months ago, and more definitively. So anyway, so let's talk about what you're doing here with Shopify. There's all kinds of cool things going on in commerce. We've just recently did a big interview with Jeff Bezos, who you may have heard of, and he runs a company called Amazon. And we talked about a range of things that are happening in shopping, which is changing really drastically, largely guided by Amazon and influenced by Amazon. You're one of the biggest, let me just get this straight, you're one of the biggest tech companies in Canada, correct? You can
Yes.
put it up. And we stole Slack, correct? So Slack doesn't count as a Canadian company, or does it?
Yeah, I think that got stolen by
Yeah.
our friends south of the border, yes.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about where you guys are. You started off as essentially a software company. People put stores online, which was sort of Web 1.0.
Yeah, and it's even worse than that. It didn't, initially the company started quite a while ago, 2004, and it was incorporated by me and a friend of mine to sell snowboards online. Mm-hmm. Which is, of course, as you know, 2004 is sort of the nuclear winter time of the tech industry, right?
Yep.
.com crash happened right before, hit Canada, frankly, just very hard as well. And it was kind of the e-commerce guys who did it, right? Like it was
Right.
Webvan and Pets.com, and we made a lot of fun of all these kind of goofy ideas, which obviously have sort of been vindicated in the last decade.
Yeah.
But it was the e-commerce guys. We wanted to start an online store and realized no one, there was just, we couldn't. Right? We were new, we weren't converting a big business, we were starting, we were entrepreneurs. There was no software we could use and then build our own. Sold a year worth of snowboards and then realized what's really meaningful to us is helping other people going through the same journey, being entrepreneurs online and starting their online stores. And we felt that was an excellent way towards entrepreneurship, and slowly build it. It was a lifestyle company for a long time. It was profitable.
So that was a web-based business, essentially, which is no longer. I think we can all agree web-based businesses are pretty much dead. Not dead, but they're not the way.
You're right.
They're not the way the future. That way, young people shop. Even old people like myself don't shop on websites anymore. So talk a little bit about. So you started with web software, and then the shift happened towards mobile commerce, mobile everything, essentially.
Right. So luckily we got that right, and I think this is why we are around and big. It was pretty easy for us to tell fairly early that the way the mobile was taking off in commerce, and there's a lot of, as always, there was a lot of people would say no one would fill out a checkout form online with their thumbs, and that, of course, is absolutely not true. People are very happy to do that kind of thing. It's still annoying, and we want to get rid of it.
It's not really where you want it to be.
Exactly. I mean, this is really clunky, right? We were really well, but we were known for online stores. This is why people implemented Shopify. So essentially, around 2010, or a little bit earlier than that, when everything became really clear that the way the industry was going to go, we sort of rebuilt Shopify sort of a guts for technology. I likened it to rebuilding an airplane mid-flight. What we've done is remove all these assumptions that one store that you sign up for equals exactly one online store, but rather properly prepared Shopify for sort of a multi-channel world. And what that means is we went down to the valley and started working with Facebook on implementing commerce directly in Facebook.
Right, exactly.
It works really well because they already have a customer profile. They know where you live, and they know your credit card after you used it just once. So now, if you see a buy button on Facebook, that's almost universally a Shopify store behind that.
That sort of begs the question: do they really need your software when right now Facebook is Facebook and others, Google, for publishing? They're trying to take the place of publishing platforms, essentially, like a WordPress or others. Same thing with shopping; they're trying to insert themselves as the place where people set up stores. And I know Amazon tried to do this and sort of abandoned the effort.
Yeah, so no, I mean that's right. So Facebook doesn't need us for facilitating a transaction or something. But the interesting thing about commerce is that getting the transaction and the money transferred is the first 10% of the entire operation, right? Afterwards, these orders come in and need to be processed. There needs to be a workflow behind this. You coordinate with people potentially in your inventory. You might federate and go to your drop shippers. You need to make sure that you charge for shipping right and taxes right. Like the back office of an online store is it's surprisingly complex because it's not really a technology play. It's like it's really you use technology to implement something that humans have been doing for thousands of years, and therefore it's messy. And that's the component. Like I don't think Mark wants to get engineers at Facebook to implement like esoteric tax laws within the code base of Facebook. So this is why it's good for us to power this kind of thing.
Who then do you worry about as a competitor? I would assume Amazon, which has tried to help online stores facilitation, even though they're in direct competition with their partners.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it doesn't even matter what industry you're in. If you're not afraid of Amazon, you don't understand Amazon, right? So I think that's absolutely true. Now, they had a competing product to Shopify called Amazon Web Store. They end-of-lifed it. I think Amazon is, there's a little bit of a different twist on the way we see the world, right? And they would admit that too. Like, in fact, they would be first to admit that because they are very, very consumer focused, which is a good thing. They want the smallest
things, right?
That's very core to them. And I think this is really, really beneficial for potentially most of the products that exist because a lot of products have barcodes. A lot of products, like laundry detergent and these kind of things, which you need a lot of. And in this case, you really want the lowest price and fastest delivery. Shopify's opinion is that we want to empower the merchant. So part of the reason why Shopify is sort of an invisible business, even though everyone in this room has bought things from Shopify stores, is that you just don't know you're interacting with Shopify. Right. Because our business actually exists to make merchants look good. So they are on their own website.
No, I get that. I understand. Yep. It's the opposite. It's the alternative to Amazon. But is there an alternative to Amazon? I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm thinking of myself with your Prime membership. I think I buy most of my things from Amazon that I used to buy from small stores and small sites, and I try to avoid small sites if I can buy it on Amazon. One, because of the price is typically competitive. Two, the shipping is simple. You get it free. It's kind of, I'm disturbed by my own behavior that I continue. They're kind of like the Borg. They're sort of eating everything up along the way, and yet it's it's a great way to shop for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I shop on Amazon too. Like it's an amazing search engine for products. Often when you buy something from Amazon, you are going to buy something from a Shopify merchant because. Again, Shopify is a back office that the merchant uses to fulfill the orders, to move the orders, to have their own workflows. And that is a merchant which probably has an online store, which is a channel in the Shopify dashboard. They sell on Amazon, which is a channel in the Shopify dashboard. And then they probably sell directly to a mobile app, which is a channel on Shopify.
Well,
so we're behind all that.
In the bigger picture, how do retailers compete? How do they actually compete against a behemoth like this?
I don't think you can. I think you just have to work with it. I think Amazon, in a lot of ways, has written the rules of the online world. If Amazon says we are all moving things by drones, we will move things by drones, right?
Right.
And so I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just because it's going to it just crystallizes the things that have always been true in the market. If you're selling a commodity, there's probably someone who might be able to do it more efficiently. But when you're selling something that you uniquely created, that's something of you or some product that you created, then you're going to be the only person selling that, and using Amazon is going to be a fantastic channel of doing this kind of thing. So the products on Shopify that sell are these kind of things, are not the things that have usually barcodes. They're someone's unique insight into something. Like, I mean, the Pokemon Go thing happened, right? Like, there's like, I look through the trending products every day, and right now, the best-selling stuff is Pokemon-inspired jewelry. This is how fast this happens. Which is
what?
Pokemon-inspired jewelry.
Yeah. What a surprise.
Yeah. Right. So it's like that's just someone who knew how to make jewelry inspired by a current event, saying, okay, I'm going to create a store around this, and I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and this is going to get my start in the business world.
Yeah, that trend's going to last 14 minutes, just so you know. We have a new social network every Friday in Silicon Valley that then dies by Thursday. And then Facebook just kills it. It's kind of it's like the Roman, the forum, essentially, and they just go in there and they get killed by Amazon or Facebook or Google.
Who's doing this?
Up and down?
Yeah.
Oh, it's always down.
Oh, okay.
It's always down.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, not at all. So let's talk about that concept of where shopping is going, because I think people here are interested in what's happening. But first, before we do that, the timer is not working, people in the back, so we're just going to keep talking forever. There's one.
Yeah.
Tiny. Oh, my God.
Lots of time.
God, anyone over 40 cannot see that. Which I am. Well over 40. Let's talk about doing a company in Canada. I was making a joke about Slack, but Stuart left Vancouver, where he had the failed company, the gaming company, called Glitch, I think, and then brought Slack down to Silicon Valley. How hard is it to create an entrepreneurial culture elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing question, which is probably on a lot of people's mind. I think it depends a lot on the kind of company you want to build, right? There's simply different assumptions, and I think this generally goes for, like, Silicon Valley, maybe New York City, but probably not, are the primary markets of starting companies, with by far the most infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Physics is completely different in secondary markets. The assumptions are different, the way people behave are different. And so I think the most important thing to realize for everyone is that the discourse of how we're thinking about companies, the books Eric Ries writes, and so on, are very much inspired by Silicon Valley's ecosystem, the same way how movies are always inspired by the way Los Angeles works, because that's where they're made. And so you will have to make some choices that are different from what you will read on Hacker News. And for instance, you can make completely different assumptions on tenure of staff. If I hire someone, very likely we are going to work together for probably 5 years. And I say that as sort of a baseline because that's sort of what I know. In reality, I've been working with some people for 10 years now. And that creates a completely different pressure on the way you should hire and how you should behave towards staff and these kind of things.
That's a long time. 5 years is a long time, meaning.
It's a long time, but it takes a while to build important things, right? Again, it took Shopify. We went through a phase of being sort of a dividend-paying, profitable lifestyle company before we took venture capital money. And that was partly due to the ecosystem we were on. Like, as Dave just said, that it was very hard to get funding, definitely last decade in Canada. And but what we realized is, if we hire, instead of waiting for the people who have all the answers, if you're hiring the people who just have lots of future potential and then take a very active role in them accomplishing their own goals to reach their potential through coaching and all these kind of things, then we would actually get something that might actually net together as something better than what other people might see.
What are the differences? You go to Silicon Valley a lot. What do you find to be works here that doesn't necessarily work there?
I think there's, so it's interesting, right? I'm from Germany. My co-founder is German as well. We started a company in Canada, mostly selling to Americans, right? So very much from the beginning, this company is just sort of a cultural clash of different things, which makes you think a little bit about how these things interact. I think. One thing, an aspect you have of Silicon Valley in the Canadian culture, I think universally, is optimism. And I think you might see that reflected in the sort of political landscape as well right now. So that's not something you need to produce. In Germany, that would be your largest challenge. Germans are fundamentally pessimistic people. I had to learn from Canadians how to really think about the future. And so what you will not have is this drive towards competitiveness, right? Which is really, it sounds like such a trope, but it's really, you really see it. There's just such a clearly intrinsic motivation to just reach what you can that you will have to convince Canadians of.
Right.
Because otherwise, the failures of a Canadian technology industry are well documented. Are BlackBerry.
Yeah,
and,
we heard about that.
Yeah, so
That was just a bad device, but go ahead.
it's true. And the problem was, well, they didn't know. And they didn't know because they insulated themselves from the front line and forgot who their customers were. And this kind of thing can happen if you don't stay hungry, right? Sean Silkoff, who was here on stage just a while ago interviewing Harley, wrote a book on BlackBerry, which I think is probably one of the most important books to read for people specifically who build companies in secondary markets, because it talks about the problems with that. But like more applicable, it's hard. Harder because you don't have events, you don't have the network of people. It's getting a lot easier now, which is really encouraging. But I mean, Startupfest,
Is
right?
it possible though to create I mean, everyone tries Silicon Prairie, Silicon whatever. You know, they have different things, Silicon Gulag or whatever they have in Russia. But it doesn't seem to have been created anywhere, save perhaps Israel. I would say there's a very vibrant startup culture there that's it's very similar to Silicon Valley in tonality, in venality, in just basic asshole levels. So can you actually create that somewhere else, or do you have a hard time? Because I was just in Chicago, and Groupon was sort of the star there, and then has been a very waning star, and I think that was holding a lot of tech development there, and then it just fizzled. Same thing, Los Angeles has got Snapchat now, but it went through a series of downturns after MySpace and demand media went off, and Snapchat lives by itself, and it's not part of an ecosystem in Los Angeles. It's very secretive and off to the side.
Right. You know, it's interesting. I don't understand the obsession with trying to become Silicon Valley. I think that's silly. I think there's one Silicon Valley, and it's going to be forever the best version of Silicon Valley that exists because it is the original. And if you're trying to pretend you're someone else, you're just not going to be doing as good a job as the original.
What has to happen here in Canada that's different? The VC scene, what is missing?
I think, people aiming high, traveling to Silicon Valley to me, I used to refer to going to Silicon Valley as a recharging my thinking big battery trip. Because I find that was issues. It's these small things, but here's the thing. One thing Canada has figured out, again, sort of more on a political but also social level, is that there is incredible power in embracing multiculturalism as a objective for the country. I think there's a lot of places like Europe which have to start studying what has been accomplished in Canada in the last 50 years along these, because they're facing these problems now. To me, this is the same thing with even startup ecosystems. They're all different, and I think this is to be celebrated. I don't think we want to have more Silicon Valleys. We actually want not a poor Israel clone of Silicon Valley. We just want Israel to be itself.
So multiculturalism, and talentism.
Figure out what it's good at, right? I wouldn't try to build Snapchat or a lot of, and frankly, I wouldn't try to build Slack in Canada because it's a little bit too explosive. But I would absolutely rebuild Shopify again here, because this is the kind of thing that just is going to require sit down, work hard, and just wait it out. Make this software really, really good through very small tweaks over a long period of time, where at some point it simply speaks to people. And this is the way I think a lot of the great software as a service businesses are being built. And I see the same thing. Box is a company which I think should have been built in Canada. I think that would have worked much, much better for Aaron. And so I think it goes a couple of ways.
All right. So let's talk about where shopping's going. We're going to get questions from the audience. I think there's some
I think I see a microphone over there.
Microphones over here. People have. So come up if you're interested in asking a question of Toby. A couple more things. Where is shopping going? We just had Jeff on stage. We had Elon Musk on stage talking about artificial intelligence. He was worried about the dangers of it. I think he said the best case scenario for the human race is to be treated like house cats by computers. And the other side is death, I think, complete death for everybody.
That sounds like an Elon thing to say.
Yeah,
right?
it was. And then he ended the entire thing by saying it doesn't really matter. We're all in a computer game by the future civilization, and this is not real. And I kept saying, well, I'd be taller if that was the case, or richer or something. But let's talk about weird things. There are some exciting things. I have an Amazon Echo. I have several of them. I love them. I think they're really interesting. Yeah. I shop with them. I do all kinds of things. It's a really if you don't have one, I don't know if it's available in Canada, you should get one. It's a really breakthrough device in terms of shopping and other requests for information. There's drones. There's VR. Yeah. There's AR. Obviously, Pokemon Go has proved that it's finally caught on in a significant way. What area do you think is most interesting of all the various futuristic kind of stuff?
I don't want to be evasive about this. The interesting thing is, like, all of those are, in a different period of business history, you would have one of those things, and like there's going to be a group of people who will recognize these things as big macroeconomical waves coming, and then they hopefully take advantage of them. What's absolutely just stunning about right now is that all of these things are happening at the same time, right, and they're all going to crash into each other.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I think it's incredibly hard to try to predict the future. I mean, as someone who builds startups, you will need something of a crystal ball. It doesn't need to be.
But I'm going to make you pick one. What do you like? Self-driving cars could deliver stuff, obviously. Yeah. Drones, I'm not so sure of, but we'll see.
Right.
Which one do you, or VR, or that you shop in a VR environment?
It's. Like, I do think that the self-driving car is going to be the largest social change in our lifetimes. I think people have, like, it's very hard for people to think about the future, but if they do, they tend to take the current and extrapolate it slightly into the future and say, okay, well, my car is going to have a button and it drives itself.
No, you're not going to have a car.
It's exactly right. There's going to be very standardized cars on the road that just simply are going to pick you up whenever you need. And the kind of implications that have are just stunning. Like, we will not need parking garages anymore. And like, simply what that is going to do to the layout of the city is just, like that alone is like bigger than a lot of the kind of changes.
So will we have stores? Why have stores at all? I just interviewed Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, and why have banks? He even said, probably not. There's no reason for them, or physical banks. Why have physical stores at all?
So I think reductio ad absurdum, like, you will get rid of a lot of these kind of things. I think that there's going to be significant issues for big box stores because they really, what they accomplished was the same the internet can do better. But I think, and this is sort of goes to your comments about the Amazon Echo and these kind of things, I think what technology is finally realizing is that that technology is subordinate to humans. And
I don't agree with you.
Okay.
All right.
Can I ask you?
You can tell me why. Because I think artificial intelligence is disturbing and frightening, and we don't understand.
And I 100% agree. And this is, of course, a potential bookend to this particular trend. But what we're seeing now is that we are starting to be not too enamored anymore with the concept of, oh, it's a computer, and therefore it's worth learning. But we see things like, honestly, as weird as it sounds, I think the most genius product that has come out in the world of commerce in the last couple of years is the Amazon Dash button. Mm-hmm. Because it recognizes the way humans actually work. Like, it recognizes that if I run out of laundry detergent, I want to get more of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to have a subscription for it because the subscription doesn't know if I run out. And I don't need my washing machine to be a computer with a touch screen in which I have to enter accounts. But I'm okay pressing a button. And I think we're homing in on a much better paradigm of how humans and computers will work together. And speech is going to play a big part of it. So this is a massive change of the way we think about user experience, about how technology is delivered, about what the role technology plays in the life of people. But you're right, it's also edging towards the concept of an AI. And
I guess I'm not as much worried about the AI as that there's going to be a small group of people who run I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow. There's going to be a very small group of people who control the AI. And if it's not more democratically widespread, everybody gets AI, we're going to be at the mercy of Facebook and Google. And while they're very seemingly nice people running the places now, I don't know who's going to run them in 10 years, 15 years.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, the parallel with that is actually the world of shopping. Like like the internet in the 90s, when the internet came to town, when that was still a thing, the most stunning thing about it is now I could, for the first time, I could actually put text myself onto somewhere, and other people could see that.
So
Before
democratic.
that, the best thing you could do was call into some game show.
Yeah, no, it became democratic and then became fascist all over again.
So then the next step happened, and we went all the way away from the democratization and went all the way back to centralization. And I mean, Amazon is potentially the biggest winner of that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to get to his question, but go ahead.
yes,
Go ahead.
Maybe we should go to Q&A. But the point I'm making is, this is going on in a lot of different fields, and I think it's very worthwhile for entrepreneurs to attempt to build businesses that can exist while also counteracting these trends. Empowering the people who build the products of tomorrow is something that's important to me, and Shopify is my way of helping.
We've got a question right here. We've got to finish up relatively soon, but go ahead.
Hi, I have two questions, if I may. One, I was really interested when you mentioned you were a lifestyle company for a while, paying dividends. I seem to think that you were saying you had to because you didn't have the right people, and then you built the team. What was the decision point to say, okay, let's get VC money, and why did you do it, and what was the purpose? What was the thinking behind that? My second question is, Canada, you're the poster boy now in Canada, the big unicorn. We've had them before. We had Nortel.
Yeah.
We had BlackBerry. What are the big challenges you're facing now as a big public company that's Canadian, that the whole of Canada is looking to as the model? What are the challenges you're facing to stay there and grow and continue growing?
So answer those pretty quickly, and then we'll get to the last question.
The decision was simply math. At some point, I didn't have enough money to try the things I wanted to do for marketing. I saved some money. I attempted all things I want to do at the same time to just see how much flexibility there for buying growth, which I didn't do before then. And all of them worked. And then I took that formula and put it in a PowerPoint, single slide, and then fundraising with that. And I've essentially raised money on math. Canada, it's...
For what? The money, why couldn't you keep growing organically? Why did you need to go and get the extra money?
Just, I think it's worthwhile raising money so you can skip years. I have a finite amount of years on this planet, and if I need to spend 5 years serializing my marketing initiatives or do them all in half a year, then I go for that.
Also, all his competitors are doing it.
And you might never get to do it, which is probably even
Why
the bigger...
Why is Lyft raising all the money uselessly against Uber? It has to. It doesn't have to. Last quick question. Did you have one? Go ahead.
Yeah, the second question, but my question was about online payments. And where do you see this going over the next 10 years? Are we going to move away from credit cards to things like Apple Pay or Bitcoin? Where are we going?
I think credit cards are fairly archaic, are really archaic. I will never want in my life again to type in a credit card into a form field. That's the objective I've given to my company to accomplish, right? So it's also it feels like from last century because everyone, Amazon, has all your credit cards. So we actually worked a lot behind the scenes with the social networks, even with Android Pay, Apple Pay, to make this happen, because this is clearly the way. As long as we need credit cards to power this kind of thing. Shopify is part of a W3C body that's creating the specifications for web payments, and this is something that we really, really, really want to make happen.
You won't have credit cards. It's just like a step along the way. I mean, think about money right now. I mean, where is your money? It doesn't exist. It's in a bank with a number. It's all digital at this point.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the short term, and I agree on the long term.
Yeah. Okay, very last quick question. Sorry, we only have time for one more very quick.
Okay. Hi,
One more.
Tobias.
Sorry.
I was wondering if you could explain how your sales process evolved. If you had inbound and then had outbound, and how that, briefly, how it evolved during these years.
That's super hard to answer quickly. I hired the first salespeople 2 years ago. So not much, honestly. Digital marketing, content marketing, write books, that's the way software as a service grows, especially bottom of the market where we're at. Salespeople will eventually make sense once your ASP goes up, but I would be the wrong person to talk to. Harley would be much better for that.
Toby, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.